Rain is hitting your window right now. Somewhere in your house, a fan is humming. A white noise app is running on your phone set to thunderstorm. Because somehow, the fake rain helps you sleep better than the real thing outside. You've probably never questioned why that works. But the real answer is far stranger than a sound machine. It goes back tens of thousands of years to a world with no roofs that didn't leak, no walls that fully closed, and rain that could fall for days without stopping. And somehow, your ancestors slept through it. Not just survived it, slept through it, night after night, for generations in shelters that would terrify a modern camper. How that question sits at the crossroads of human evolution, anthropology, and sleep science. And the answer will change how you think about your own worst nights of insomnia. Start with the obvious problem. Rain is loud. Rain is wet. Rain in the wrong season can mean flooding, cold, sickness, even death. A prehistoric human sleeping in a cave mouth or under a lean-to of branches and bark had every reason to stay alert. Predators moved differently in rain. Scent trails changed. Footing got dangerous. Logically, rain should have kept ancient humans awake, tense, and listening for danger. And yet, the archaeological and anthropological evidence points the other way. Rain for most of human history wasn't the enemy of sleep. It was one of the most reliable sleep aids our species ever had. To understand why, you have to rethink what sleep actually meant to a human living 20,000 years ago. Sleep researcher Jerome Siegel at UCLA spent years studying sleep in 3 modern hunter-gatherer and pre-industrial societies: the Hadza of Tanzania, the San of Namibia, and the Tisamane of Bolivia. These groups live without electricity, without clocks, without curtains. Their sleep is about as close as living science can get to how ancient humans actually rested. Siegel's team found something almost nobody expected. These groups didn't sleep more than people in modern cities. Some slept less, but their sleep was deeper, more consistent, and far less disrupted by anxiety-driven wakefulness. Why? Because their brains had almost no reason to treat nighttime sound as a threat signal, as long as that sound was familiar. Here's the deeper layer. Your brain, even while asleep, is not fully offline. Part of it stays on watch. Scientists call this the brain's threat detection system, and it works like a night guard that never fully clocks out. It listens for sudden changes, a door creaking that never creaks, a voice where there should be silence, a car alarm slicing through a quiet street, but a night guard doesn't react to a sound it already expects. Rain, especially steady, patternless rain, is what scientists call stochastic noise. That means it has no rhythm your brain can pin down, no gaps that suddenly go silent, no sharp spikes that scream danger. It's just constant, textured, unpredictable yet unthreatening sound. Your ancient ancestors, sleeping through rainy season after rainy season, had brains that learned this pattern early and never forgot it. Rain became background. Rain became safety. Now compare that to the sound of a snapped twig outside a hut at 2 a.m. That sound is sharp. That sound is sudden. That sound punches through your inner night guard because it doesn't fit the pattern. Rain, ironically, was often the thing masking those sharp sounds, which meant rain wasn't blocking safety. Rain was often creating it. Does that mean the storm helped hide predators from your ancestors too? In part, yes. Anthropological studies of shelter use in tropical and subtropical hunter-gatherer groups show that heavy, sustained rain reduced predator activity near camps. Big cats, hyenas, and other nocturnal hunters relied heavily on scent and hearing to track prey. Rain washed out scent trails. Rain drowned out the soft sounds of movement predators depended on, in a strange twist, the same rain that seems chaotic to modern ears was for early humans, one of nature's few genuine safe-to-sleep deeply signals. This is where the story takes its first real turn, because ancient sleep wasn't just about noise, it was about darkness, and here the twist gets stranger. For most of human history, night wasn't uniformly dark. It had phases. Full moons lit the landscape enough to move around by. New moons plunged everything into deep black, and rain clouds did something in between. They blocked moonlight almost completely, creating some of the darkest nights a prehistoric human would ever experience. Biologist and sleep researcher Horacio de la Iglesia at the University of Washington led a landmark study on the Toba Com people of Argentina, a community that lives with only partial access to electric light. His team tracked their sleep across lunar cycles and found something remarkable. On nights with more moonlight, people slept less and went to bed later. On dark, moonless, or heavily overcast nights, they slept earlier and slept longer. The moon, invisible and distant, was quietly steering human sleep timing for nearly all of human history. Now, picture what that means for a rainy night in deep prehistory. No moon, no stars, no firelight strong enough to compete. Just total, blanketing darkness wrapped in the low, steady hush of rainfall. That combination didn't just allow sleep. It practically demanded it. Darkness triggers a hormone called melatonin, sometimes nicknamed the hormone of night, which your brain releases when light levels drop. Melatonin doesn't force you unconscious. It tells your internal clock that night has arrived and it's safe to power down. Modern humans fight this constantly with phone screens, streetlights, and glowing devices confusing that signal every single evening. Your ancestors huddled under bark and hide during a storm, had no such interference. Rain clouds erased the moon. The moon's absence triggered melatonin. Melatonin cleared the runway for deep, uninterrupted sleep. So the storm wasn't fighting your ancestors' biology. It was accidentally optimizing it, but there's a twist inside the twist. And this is where the story gets genuinely strange. You might assume ancient humans slept the way you're told a healthy adult should sleep, one long, unbroken 8-hour block. That idea is mostly a modern invention. Historian A. Roger E. Kirch at Virginia Tech spent over a decade digging through pre-industrial diaries, court records, and medical texts across Europe. He found hundreds of casual references to first sleep and second sleep, two distinct sleep periods separated by an hour or more of quiet wakefulness in the middle of the night. People would wake naturally around midnight, sit with their thoughts, pray, talk quietly, tend a fire, sometimes even visit neighbors, then drift back into a second sleep until dawn. This pattern, often called segmented sleep, appears to have been completely normal for most of human history, and rain likely reinforced it rather than disrupted it. Here's why that matters. During a heavy extended storm, ancient humans weren't tracking time the way you do, with a clock glowing on a nightstand. Their bodies were syncing instead to darkness, temperature, and sound. A long rainy night with no moon and no visual cues gave the body an unusually long, undisturbed window to move through these natural sleep segments. Wake briefly. Notice the rain still falling steadily outside. Feel the same safe monotony continuing. Fall back asleep with almost no anxiety attached to that waking moment. Compare that to how a modern person wakes at 3 a.m. Heart rate spikes. Mind jumps to email, to deadlines, to tomorrow's to-do list. The waking moment itself becomes stressful, because there's no steady ancient signal reassuring the brain that everything outside is fine. Ancient rain, in other words, may have been quietly training the human nervous system for thousands of years to treat midnight waking as calm, not catastrophic. So what changed? Why does modern rain sometimes still lull you to sleep, but modern life so often overrides it? The honest answer involves shelter, and this is the counterintuitive twist most people never expect you'd think. Better shelter means better sleep. Stronger roofs, thicker walls, full separation from weather. Logically, that should be an upgrade. But something was lost in that upgrade. Ancient shelters, whether a rock overhang, a reed hut, or an animal hide tent, kept people close enough to the storm to feel its rhythm without being harmed by it. That direct physical connection reinforced the brain's read on the storm as constant and non-threatening. Once permanent walls, tiled roofs, and eventually glass windows entered human life, that raw sensory feedback started to fade. Rain became muffled, distant, sometimes barely audible. And ironically, the less you could hear it clearly, the more your brain had to guess about what was happening outside. Guessing is the opposite of the ancient safety signal. Guessing keeps the night guard active. This is part of why so many modern sleep aids try to recreate artificially the exact soundscape your ancestors lived inside for real white noise machines. Rain sound apps, thunderstorm playlists with millions of streams. None of it is a coincidence. It's a very literal, technological attempt to rebuild an ancient nighttime environment that industrialized housing accidentally removed. Modern science backs this instinct up. Multiple sleep studies have shown that steady, low-frequency background noise of the kind rain naturally produces can shorten the time it takes to fall asleep and reduce nighttime awakenings, especially in noisy urban environments where sudden, unpredictable sounds, like traffic or sirens, are the real disruptors. Your brain isn't upgraded past its ancient wiring. It's the same threat detection system your ancestors carried through every rainy season for tens of thousands of years. It still prefers a steady hush over sudden silence broken by sharp noise. So when you press play on a thunderstorm sound tonight, you're not doing something modern and clever. You're doing something ancient and inherited. You're recreating, artificially, a nervous system state your ancestors lived inside naturally. Night after night, storm after storm, for the vast majority of human history. Think about that the next time a real storm rolls in. That instinctive relief you feel, curling deeper into a blanket while rain taps the window. That's not random comfort. That's a genetic memory of safety, carried forward from a lineage of humans who learned, generation after generation, that rain meant hidden predators, erased scent trails, blacked out moonlight, and permission to finally fully let go. Your ancestors didn't sleep through endless rain by accident. They slept through it because their entire nervous system had been shaped over unimaginable stretches of time to hear that sound and think one word: safe. So the rain outside your window right now isn't just weather. It's an inheritance.